I want you to take a second and think about the most expensive thing you own. Is it your house? Your car? That watch on your wrist? You're wrong. The most expensive thing you own is your attention, and right now, most of you are being robbed blind. You are giving away your peace, your joy, and your destiny to people who don't even care if you live or die. Think about the last time you didn't take the shot. Not on a soccer pitch, but in life. You didn't start the business. You didn't speak your truth. You didn't wear what you wanted to wear because of a ghost. The ghost of what will they think? We are living in a prison with no bars, guarded by the opinions of people we don't even respect. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled the known world, sat in a tent 2,000 years ago and asked himself, "We all love ourselves more than other people, but we care more about their opinion than our own. Why?" Today, we are going to break those chains. We're going to look at the Stoic blueprint. 7 massive shifts in your psychology that will move you from being a slave to approval to being the master of your soul. The foundational crisis of the modern human experience is a catastrophic misallocation of energy. We are bleeding out, emotionally and spiritually, because we have staked our happiness on a territory where we have zero jurisdiction. Tony Robbins often says that where focus goes, energy flows, but the Stoics take it a step further. They demand that you audit that focus with the precision of a surgeon. This is the circle of sovereign control. Most people spend 99% of their lives living in the outer circle. They are obsessed with the weather, the fluctuating economy, the political climate, and, most destructively, the flickering, unreliable thoughts inside the minds of other people. When you live in the outer circle, you are essentially a professional victim. You are waiting for the world to be nice to you before you allow yourself to feel peaceful. You are waiting for your boss to validate you, for your partner to applaud you, or for a stranger on the internet to like your post before you decide that you have value. If they don't give it to you, your world collapses. This is not living. This is being a puppet on 1,000 strings, and every person you meet is pulling a different one. The Stoic blueprint demands that you cut those strings today. You must retreat from the outer circle and build an unshakable fortress within the inner circle, the only place where you are truly sovereign. In this circle, there are only 3 things: your thoughts, your intentions, and your actions. That is it. You do not control whether people like you. You do not control if they misunderstand your heart. You do not control if they judge your past, but you have absolute 100% control over how you respond to that judgment. Epictetus, who lived as a physical slave, understood that a man in chains could still be more powerful than a Caesar if he mastered his internal representation of the world. He taught that our suffering doesn't come from the events themselves, but from the stories we tell ourselves about those events. When someone judges you, the vent is just a sound wave or a collection of pixels. The suffering only begins when you choose to value that person's opinion over your own internal truth. To master this pillar, you must develop a radical psychological boundary. When a criticism comes your way, you must ask one question: is this within my control? If the answer is no, then it is indifferent to your happiness. You must learn to say, that is their business, not mine. If you are a good person, if you act with integrity, if you give your heart to your mission, and people still throw stones, let them. The stones stay in the outer circle. If you try to catch them, you get bruised. If you let them fall, they remain just rocks on the ground. Freedom is the moment you realize that you no longer need to defend yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Your energy is too precious to spend on a battle you cannot win. Stop trying to manage your reputation and start managing your character. Your reputation is what others think of you. Your character is who you actually are. One is a shadow, the other is the substance. Build the substance and let the shadow do whatever it wants. When you reside fully in your circle of sovereign control, you become a person of ultimate power because you have finally stopped asking for permission to be okay. We are living in a culture that has turned external validation into a digital currency, a world where we have been conditioned to look outside of ourselves for a signal that we are doing okay. We have become addicts of the like button, not just in our social media feeds, but in the very fabric of our souls. We walk into a room and we scan the environment, we check the faces of others, we measure the tone of their voices, and we look for some external citation to prove that we belong, that we are enough, or that our lives have meaning. But the Stoic blueprint teaches us that if you are waiting for the world to tell you that you are great before you feel great, you have already handed over the keys to your kingdom. You are essentially a beggar standing at the gates of public opinion, hoping for a few crumbs of approval to sustain your self-esteem for another hour. This is the ultimate trap, because if you give people the power to feed you, you also give them the power to starve you. If their yes is the source of your joy, then their no will inevitably be the source of your destruction. To break this cycle, you must build what I call an internal citation of truth. You must become your own highest court. In the old world, a scholar would cite a great authority to prove a point. In the Stoic world, you must cite your own virtue. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic minds, urged us to have a guardian inside our own minds, a set of internal standards that are so high, so clear, and so uncompromising that the world's opinion becomes irrelevant noise in the background. Think about it. If you are a person of integrity, if you are kind, if you are disciplined, and if you are living according to your highest values, does a stranger's criticism actually change the molecular structure of your character? Does a hateful comment change the fact that you showed up for your family or worked your heart out on your mission? Of course not. The only thing that changes is your state, and you only let your state change because you've decided that their citation matters more than your own. This shift requires a total psychological overhaul. You have to stop being a consumer of validation and start being a producer of self-respect. Self-respect is not something you find. It is something you earn through your own actions when no one is watching. It is the result of keeping the promises you make to yourself. When you have an internal citation of truth, you develop a citadel of the mind. When the world throws its judgments at you, when they call you crazy, arrogant, or wrong, those judgments hit the walls of your citadel and fall harmlessly to the ground. Why? Because you've already checked the facts with your internal judge. You know who you are. You know why you do what you do. You have an internal scoreboard that is far more demanding than anything the world could ever dream up. When you live this way, you become fuck with able. You can walk into any environment, a boardroom, a stadium, or a family dinner, and you carry your own atmosphere with you. You aren't pulling energy from the room to feel okay. You are pushing your own certainty into the room. You become the source. This is the ultimate freedom. It is the freedom to be bold, to be authentic, and to be unrealistic in the eyes of the masses. Because when you stop needing the world to cite your greatness, you finally have the power to actually achieve it. You become a leader instead of a follower. You become the sun instead of the shadow. From this moment on, stop looking for your reflection in the eyes of people who don't even know their own hearts. Look within. Cite your own virtue. Own your own truth. Most people view the judgment of others as a wall, a hard, cold, immovable barrier that stops them in their tracks. When someone criticizes them, they see it as a sign to slow down, to hide, or to change who they are to fit in. But the Stoic blueprint offers a radical psychological inversion. In the words of the great Marcus Aurelius, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is the concept of amor fati, not just accepting your fate, but loving it. It means that the very people who are trying to bring you down, the very critics who are laughing at your dreams, and the very obstacles that seem to be blocking your path are actually the secret ingredients to your greatness. They aren't in your way, they are the way. They are the fuel for your fire. Think about the physics of a fire. If a fire is small and weak, a bucket of water will put it out. But if a fire is intense, if it is a raging inferno, you can throw anything at it, wood, paper, trash, even the very water meant to extinguish it, and the fire will simply consume it and grow larger. That is how you must handle the judgments of the world. If your inner fire is weak, a little bit of social rejection will put you out. You'll go home, you'll feel bad, and you'll stop trying. But if you have a must, if you have a vision that is backed by absolute certainty, then every no, every insult, and every misunderstanding is just more wood for the pile. You don't just deal with the critics, you use them to get stronger. The critics are actually providing you with a service they don't even realize. They are the ultimate resistance training for your soul. You cannot build a powerful physical body without the resistance of heavy weights, and you cannot build a powerful character without the resistance of a judgmental world. Every time someone tries to shame you and you choose to stay in your inner circle, your character muscle grows. Every time someone calls you crazy and you continue to take massive action, your certainty muscle doubles in size. They think they are stopping you, but they are actually training you. They are helping you develop a level of emotional resilience that a pampered, balanced person will never know. You should be thanking your haters. They are the involuntary coaches of your life. This mindset shift is what separates the elite from the average. The average person spends their energy trying to avoid obstacles and criticism. The elite person realizes that the obstacle is the very thing that will give them the edge. When people doubt you, let that doubt become a shot of adrenaline at 400 a.m. when you don't want to get out of bed. When they say you aren't good enough, let that voice be the rhythm you run to when your lungs are burning. You take the negative energy of the world and you recycle it into productive action. You become an alchemist of the spirit. You turn the lead of judgment into the gold of achievement. Never forget that the world's most iconic figures were all judged, mocked, and ridiculed. If you don't have critics, it's a sign that you aren't doing anything significant. Critics are the tax you pay for greatness. The more you achieve, the higher the tax. But instead of complaining about the tax, you pay it with a smile, because you know that the cost is actually buying you a level of strength that no one can ever take away. From this moment on, stop praying for an easy life without judgment. Pray for the strength to consume the judgment and turn it into power. Love your fate, love the struggle, and most importantly, love the obstacles, because they are the only things that can truly show you who you are capable of becoming. The greatest trick your ego plays on you is the belief that when people judge you, it has anything to do with you. We walk around carrying the weight of the world's opinions as if those opinions were objective truths, engraved in stone by a divine hand. But the Stoic blueprint invites you to look behind the curtain and see the judge for who they truly are. Marcus Aurelius, in the quiet of his soul, used to remind himself that the people who were whispering about him in the halls of Rome were themselves a mess of contradictions, fears, and desperate insecurities. He realized that the judging mind is not a temple of wisdom, it is a house of vanity. Most people are not judging you based on your character or your potential. They are judging you through the distorted lens of their own unhealed trauma and their own personal limitations. Think about the psychology of a critic. A happy, fulfilled, and successful person, someone who is actually the arena, hardly ever has the time or the inclination to tear someone else down. They are too busy building their own life, chasing their own must, and contributing to the world. The person who spends their time judging you is almost always someone who has settled for a life of quiet desperation. When they see you taking a risk, when they see you standing in your truth, or when they see you refusing to follow the herd, it triggers a deep, subconscious pain within them. It reminds them of the risks they didn't take. It reminds them of the voice they silenced years ago to fit in. Their judgment is not a critique of your path. It is a defense mechanism for their own. They have to call you crazy or unrealistic. Because if you are right, then their entire life of playing it safe is wrong. When you understand this, the entire power dynamic of your life shifts. You move from a state of fear to a state of profound empathy, and even pity. Why would you allow the map of someone else's limitations to dictate the territory of your destiny? If someone is trapped in a prison of not enough, why would you let them be the warden of your soul? The Stoics teach us to look at the judging mind as a mirror. When someone throws an insult or a judgment your way, they aren't describing you, they are describing their own internal world. If they are full of hate, they see hate. If they are full of lack, they see your ambition as greed. If they are full of fear, they see your courage as recklessness. Their opinion is a biography of them, not a report card of you. This realization is the ultimate pattern interrupt. The next time someone judges you, instead of getting defensive, instead of shrinking, I want you to look at them and think, what a heavy burden you must be carrying to need to project that onto me. You don't have to be angry with them. You don't have to fight them. You just have to realize that their verdict has no authority in your court. Most of the people you are trying to impress are people you wouldn't even trade places with. Why are you asking for directions from people who are lost themselves? Stop giving the vanity of others the power to interrupt your mission. The judging mind is a fleeting, fickle thing. It loves you one day and hates you the next, based on nothing more than its own moods and whims. To build your life on the foundation of public opinion is to build a skyscraper on shifting sand. You must build on the rock of your own internal standards. When you realize that the critics are just children in grown-up clothes, struggling with their own shadows, you finally stop caring what they think. You become free to love them, free to lead them, but never, ever controlled by them. The ultimate sickness of our modern age is a radical dependency on the tribal consensus. We have been programmed from birth to believe that we are incomplete without the other. Not in a beautiful, collaborative sense, but in a desperate, needy sense. We think we need the world to nod its head before we can feel valid. We think we need the like to feel seen. We think we need the approval of the group to feel safe. But the Stoics taught a virtue that is almost extinct today, something they called autarkia or self-sufficiency. This isn't about being a hermit or shunning human connection. It's about a psychological independence that says, my peace is my own property, and I have not given anyone else the power of attorney over my soul. It is the realization that you are the sole source of your own power and your own peace. Think about the sheer vulnerability of a person who is not self-sufficient. If you need the crowd to cheer for you to feel confident, then the crowd owns you. If they stop cheering, your confidence vanishes. If you need your critics to be silent to feel peaceful, then your critics own you. You are living in a state of constant environmental reactivity. You are like a thermostat that is controlled by the outside air rather than an internal setting. The Stoic blueprint demands that you become the internal thermostat. You must set your own temperature. You must decide, based on your own virtues and your own standards, who you are and what you are worth. When you are self-sufficient, you don't go into the world to get validation, you go into the world to give value. There is a massive difference between a man who does a good deed because he wants to be seen as good and a man who does a good deed because it is right. One is a slave to the audience. The other is a master of himself. This is what I call the power of the one. Most people are terrified to stand alone. They would rather be wrong with the group than be right by themselves. But every major breakthrough in human history, every great work of art, and every legendary achievement came from someone who was willing to be a one. They were self-sufficient enough to trust their own vision when the rest of the world called them a fool. You have to develop the solitary strength of a mountain. A mountain doesn't care if it's being photographed or if it's being climbed, it just is. It stands in its own majesty regardless of the weather. You must become that mountain when you have cultivated a deep internal relationship with yourself. When you actually like the person you are when you're alone, you no longer fear the rejection of the crowd. In fact, you start to see the crowd's rejection as a sign that you are finally following your own path. Self-sufficiency is the ultimate shield against the "what will they think?" virus. When you are self-sufficient, you realize that you are already full. You aren't walking around with an empty cup, begging people to fill it with their approval. Your cup is already overflowing because you have filled it yourself with discipline, integrity, and self-love. From this state of overflow, you can actually love people more deeply because you don't need anything from them. You can be bold, you can be honest, and you can be your authentic self because you have nothing to lose. You can't take away the self-respect of a man who earned it through his own blood, sweat, and tears. You can't shame a woman who has already forgiven herself and found her own truth. Stop being a beggar for attention and start being a king of your own inner world. When you are enough for yourself, you are finally free to be everything for the world. The greatest mistake people make when they are judged is that they stop to argue. They get caught in the explanation trap. They think that if they can just find the right words, if they can just justify their path, or if they can just show the critic why they are wrong, then the pressure will stop. But the Stoic blueprint teaches us that the only response to judgment that carries any weight is not a word. It is a result. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." There is no argument on earth that is as loud or as final as a finished masterpiece, a successful business, or a transformed life. Massive action is the ultimate silencer. It is the only thing that moves the conversation from, "Why are you doing that?" to, "How did you do that?" Most of your critics are talking because they are bored. They are talking because it's easier to analyze your life than it is to fix their own. When you stop to debate them, you are giving them exactly what they want: your time and your energy. You are lowering yourself to their level. But when you take massive action, you leave them behind in the dust of your momentum. You move so fast and you climb so high that their voices eventually become nothing more than a faint, incoherent buzzing far below you. You don't have to defeat your critics, you just have to outgrow them. You have to evolve to a level where their opinions literally cannot reach you. Think about it: who has time to worry about a comment when they are in the middle of a world-class workout? Who has time to care about a tweet when they are closing a deal that will change their family's legacy for 3 generations? Action is a form of spiritual hygiene. It washes away the static of other people's opinions. When you are in a state of flow, when you are pushing your limits and executing at your highest level, the part of your brain that cares what people think actually shuts down. You move from the thinking mind into the doing mind. In that state, you aren't a victim, you are a force of nature. This is the secret of every legend we admire. They didn't win over their haters with kindness. They won them over with competence. They stayed in the gym until the lights went out. They stayed at the desk until the sun came up. They did the work that no one else was willing to do. And eventually, the weight of their evidence became so massive that the world had no choice but to acknowledge it. Action is the ultimate form of integrity. It is the bridge between the internal truth you've found and the external reality you want to create. Without action, your Stoic philosophy is just a set of nice quotes. With action, it is a revolution. Stop wasting your breath on people who don't want to hear you. Save your breath for the climb. The best revenge is not to be like them, and the second best revenge is massive, undeniable success. Let your results do the talking. Let your character be your witness. When you commit to massive action, you aren't just achieving a goal. You are proving to yourself that you are the master of your destiny. You are showing the world that you are a person of substance in a world of shadows. From this moment on, let your answer to every critic be your execution. Don't tell them what you're going to do. Show them what you've done. We have traveled through the 7 pillars of the Stoic blueprint. We have learned to move into our circle of control, to cite our own internal truth, to live with the urgency of death, to use obstacles as fuel, to see through the vanity of the judging mind, to stand in our own self-sufficiency, and to silence the noise with massive action. But now, as we reach the end of this journey, I have one final question for you. Who are you going to be when you walk out of here? Are you going to go back to being a pleaser? Are you going to go back to shrinking so that other people feel big? Or are you ready to finally, once and for all, step into your own skin? I want you to take a deep, powerful breath right now. Feel the oxygen hit your blood. That is the only validation you need. You are alive. You are here. You are a miracle. You weren't born to be an extra in someone else's movie. You were born to be the hero of your own. The world is waiting for you to stop caring. Not because you're indifferent, but because you're committed. Committed to your mission, committed to your family, and committed to the truth of who you are. When you stop caring what they think, you finally give them the greatest gift you could ever offer, your authentic self. Go out there and live with your head held high. Not out of arrogance, but out of the quiet, unshakable certainty of a person who knows they are doing their best. Be bold. Be brave. Be free. Live with passion. And go to Kyo Yupo K.